مولانا محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين وبعد السلام عليكم ورحمة الله تعالى وبركاته كيف حالكم؟ الحمد لله. Beloved brothers and sisters, Alhamdulillah, in our fiqh lessons, we are in the chapter of talaq. We are slowly concluding this chapter, inshallah. And this evening we are looking at the concept of the iddah, the waiting period. And just over the past 2 weeks, I have been reminded in countless occasions that this area of fiqh is one that is very rampant in our community, but very little is known about it. Since this chapter has been taught here from the masjid, I've been flooded with questions regarding this issue, and so I encourage those who are in the masjid, those who are watching, listening online, I'm quite sure that you at some point will interact with someone who might be going through talaq, and I urge you to please advise them to follow the laws of Allah appropriately, inshallah. That is why Allah gives you the amana of the knowledge. So we are looking at the iddah, the waiting period. And the iddah, the waiting period, is that issue or that concept which Allah has legislated firstly. This is a very important point. Many times ladies pose this question to me and they say, in many instances, yeah, the husband gave me a talaq, why must I go into iddah? Why does he get to celebrate and I must be in iddah? So a very important point regarding iddah is that it is not about the ex-husband. It is about what Allah wants from a particular person. And so if iddah, and iddah is prescribed in the Quran, therefore any sister who goes through this, if the husband also passes away, she enters into iddah. This is a concept that Allah has legislated upon the ladies. And so this is between the lady and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, not about the ex-husband. So let's look at what the Shaykh writes regarding the iddah of women. So the Shaykh writes that when we look at iddah, we categorize women into 2 categories. Either they are a widow or a non-widow, because the laws differ for these 2 ladies. And it's very interesting fiqh, because if you look at the pattern in our community, generally, the husbands pass away before the women. The men pass away before the women. That's a general, sort of an finding in our community. So it is important for everyone to be quite clear regarding this. So regarding these categories of women, we first look at the widow. And so in terms of the widow, her husband has passed away. And this iddah we get from the Quran. So the widow is put into 2 categories. Either she is pregnant or she is not pregnant. If the lady is pregnant, her husband passes away and she is pregnant, her iddah will be up until she gives birth, even if it is a day. Because the iddah for the pregnant lady is up until she gives birth, until delivery, right? And then for the lady who is not pregnant, that widow, her iddah from Allah is 4 months and 10 days. And that is using your lunar months. Okay, so 4 months and 10 days. Right. Now, let's also just quickly add another point in here. Let's say a lady is married to a man, he passes away, she is pregnant, but not with his child. Right? Common, unfortunately. What is the iddah for that lady? It falls onto 4 months and 10 days. If the child is not his. Okay? That's the fiqh law that applies there. Now we come to the iddah of the lady, the non-widow. So this is your very common talaq. When the man issues a talaq to the lady, pronounces a talaq. Here we go into various circumstances. Firstly, if the lady is pregnant, now of course we know that the talaq given to a pregnant lady was already sinful, but applicable, meaning if a man gives his pregnant wife a talaq, he gets a sin for doing so, but the effect thereof still stands, that she has received a talaq, and so she goes into iddah. And that iddah is until she delivers. Then the second area is if the lady is not pregnant. So she goes into what we call three quru, or three periods. And here the madhabs differ in terms of how we calculate it. In the Shafi'i school of thought, it is 3 periods of purity. So the lady receives a talaq in a period of purity. She has 1 menstrual cycle, 2nd menstrual cycle, and then upon the 3rd menstrual cycle, meaning she has completed 3 periods of purity, upon her 3rd menstrual cycle for a Shafi'i lady, her iddah concludes. For the Hanafi lady, it is based on the menstrual cycle. So the lady essentially, once she reaches so she goes through her 1st menstrual cycle, 2nd menstrual cycle, and then once she has completed her 3rd menstrual cycle, her iddah is concluded for the Hanafi lady. For a lady who does not have a menstrual cycle, she could either be too young, or she could be menopausal, or she could be, sort of experiencing some sickness where she does not have a menstrual cycle. She is allocated 3 lunar months. That is the iddah for that lady. Okay. Right. Then for the lady who got married, but the husband never slept with her. So the nikah occurs, and maybe something is revealed on that day. I don't know. A common scenario is sometimes the person finds out that the spouse is not a virgin, and that is upsetting, and so they want to end the marital contract. Of course, it is grounds to end it. So if a talaq is issued to a lady and there was no consummation, there will be no iddah. Okay? And she returns half of the mahr. Right? So she still gets to retain half for going through the motion of the nikah. And so the verses in the Quran that specify the iddah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions the arba'ata ashhuri wa ashra, that is the 4 months and 10 days in Surah Baqarah for, of course, the lady who has lost her husband. And then Allah also mentions the thalathata quru, the 3 cycles for the lady who, is not divorced. And as I conclude, I just want to quickly mention a point here. What should the lady in iddah do? This is a very, important point. So when the lady is in iddah, I've mentioned this in a previous class, that the lady should preferably remain in her house, her marital home, right? Because the husband still has to maintain her, nafaqah. So if the husband issues 1 or 2 talaqs, she should remain in the marital home, and then he should nafaqah her, maintain her in the same way he did prior to the talaq. So what is extremely common, and I, make a lot of dua for all the couples because we're approaching December, and it's hot, and so with the external heat, the tempers flare, unfortunately. And so sometimes a lot of bad things happen during December. May Allah protect all the couples. So again, I urge everyone just to be very careful regarding this. If a man issues 1 talaq to his wife and he says, I want you to get out or move out, he can only ask her to move out if she slept with another man. That is the only grounds. If he asks her to move out, then he must pay for her rent wherever she's going to stay. This is a right. And so many men, I've also mentioned this in our community, historically, for decades in this community, unfortunately. Men who put the lady out, they don't want to pay anything, no nafaqah, right? I recall many years ago one particular incident, many years ago, where the man put the lady out, and the lady reported it to us as ulama, and we contacted the husband and we said, this is the right, you must see to it. And I remember the man's words to us, I'm not interested in Allah's laws. Now that's dangerous, right? Extremely dangerous to act in that manner. So if a man does issue a talaq, he must still maintain the wife. This is what Allah wants. Now, in addition to that, we are in the South African legal system. I remind everyone that they've passed the law that any talaq issued from December 2014 can be heard in the South African courts. Meaning that the Islamic law can now be transferred. And that is why the courts often ask me to write recommendations, for this particular case. And I would simply indicate this is what the Sharia says. And then the court has been placing payment orders upon the men who did not pay nafaqah. Even if the iddah is passed. So just a reminder that please fulfill Allah's laws for anyone in that particular scenario. And so with regards to the lady in iddah, another important point. Ladies often ask, what should they do? Well, firstly, the lady in iddah is meant to remain in her home. That is according to Islamic teachings. The ulama in a contemporary fatwa said, if the lady is dependent on her income, her job, so she works and she's in iddah, and after the iddah she will no longer have a husband to maintain her. So the preference will always be that the lady must complete her iddah. If she can take leave from her job without being fired, then she should take that leave and fulfill the right of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But some ulama have ruled that if she's dependent on the job, then she must find a way to honor the laws of the iddah. So what are the outcomes of the iddah? That she should not be engaging in any social interaction with strange men during the period of iddah. She should not be seen by strange men during the period of iddah. So a lady who goes into iddah should honor these laws. Irrespective of the fatwa that you do get, the objective is don't, interact socially. Now we also face a contemporary situation that a lady goes into iddah and she's in her house, but then she's on Facebook, like posting a video or Instagram, right? With her face visible and expressing, iddah, the one the world to know and all these things. Now the challenge here is it goes against the objective of the iddah. Because a lady going on social media and posting about herself is public, and men can see her, and that goes against the objective. So please, I urge anyone, if this happens, report it to your imam, to your alim, so that they can advise you on what is the best way forward for you as a couple. All right? So we conclude, we establish that the iddah is based upon the husband's passing or divorce, and report the talaq to an alim and imam, and obtain confirmation of iddah. This is also another important point, that when you go into iddah, report it to an alim, to your imam, and say, my husband has issued this to me, because we've also had quite a few cases where the lady thinks she's in iddah, and she puts herself in iddah, and she completes it, and then she goes to the masjid, to the imam, I want what we call the divorce decree, because it's a document needed legally in South Africa. And we have to validate, did you complete your iddah? And then she says, yes, my husband said, I don't want you anymore. So she put herself into iddah. And then we would ask the husband, did you say that? Yes, but maybe the husband says, but I didn't divorce her. I was just maybe, I didn't intend divorce, because that is kinaya, indirect. So you need intention. And if the husband says, I didn't intend, then there was no talaq. And this can become very frustrating for the couples. So best advice, as soon as a talaq, you're thinking of talaq, the brothers, Take it to your imam, to your alim, get advice. What is the best thing to do? And the ladies, if you receive a talaq, report it to your imam, and so that this can be documented, and that of course you can get appropriate advice. Any questions, inshallah? Yes.
What is the woman's cycle is not normal? Will she follow a harder?
So the question is, if the lady does not have a regular cycle, but she has a cycle.
So she, like, if she has an harder, for example, of 15 days, she can say 15 days, 15 days, 15 days, for 3 months.
Yes. So the question is, if the lady has an irregular cycle, but a cycle nonetheless, it is based on the cycle. ثلاثة قروء. Yes, Ajay. Okay, yes. So the Haji is asking about the wisdom behind the iddah for a lady who is elderly and a lady who is not elderly and can bear children, maybe. I understand correctly. And I'm assuming this relates to the iddah for a widow. Right, okay. So the wisdom that the ulama have extracted for these two circumstances are quite clear. For the lady who is young and can bear children, the iddah serves the purpose, an additional purpose of determining whether the lady is pregnant. Because there is then, if the lady is pregnant, it has an implication for inheritance. And so we can't divide the estate until the child is born. So, of course, a youngster asked me this in Cape Town last year, mashallah, when I delivered a talk there. He asked me, Sheikh, today you can scan. You can scan and see if the lady is pregnant. Must she still sit? A good question. Must she still sit the 4 months and 10 days? And I said, yes, because human beings can't override Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah's ruling regarding the iddah of the widow is clear. So no amount of qiyas can override Allah's explicit law. For an elderly lady, the ulama extract that she must be given a period to mourn, an appropriate period to mourn. Even if she can't bear children, she is meant to mourn the loss of her husband in that period. That's the wisdom supporting it, inshallah. Okay. Jazakallah khairan. Wa sallallahu wa sallam ala